There is a real difference between solving a danger and solving a mystery. In Apothecary Diaries, Maomao spends one particular episode doing the first one over and over while completely ignoring the second. So that's what I want to dig into. Why she explains every single ghost story told that episode except one, why the story she skips is built entirely around staying completely still, and whether saving everyone in that room was ever actually the same thing as understanding what almost happened to them. Maomao's whole personality runs on one habit. Something strange happens. She finds the boring, real explanation underneath it. In this episode, a gathering of palace women starts trading ghost stories by candlelight, and that habit gets tested story by story. The first story is about glowing lights in a forbidden forest. Maomao doesn't explain it in the moment, but afterward in a separate convo. She lays out the real cause: fungus growing on rotting wood. Here is what I think is actually being tested with each story. Whether she can hold the line. As long as every tale gets a rational answer, the pattern holds, because that's who she is. Then a woman named Shisui tells her story. A monk, a house, a couple who aren't what they look like. And Maomao doesn't touch this one. Picture a doctor who always tells you the real diagnosis, no matter how small the symptom, and then one time you bring up the one thing that's actually been keeping you up at night, and she just changes the subject. But is that really an oversight? Or is there something about Shisui's story specifically she can't explain the same way she explains everything else? There's an actual detail running underneath Shisui's monk story that I think explains why this one's different from every story Maomao actually solves. The monk survives by staying completely still, chanting no matter how afraid he is. That stillness is the entire reason he stays hidden. And I think that detail matters more than it looks like on the surface. There is a real insect biology that echoes this too. Some cricket species stay motionless specifically because predators track vibration and not sight. I want to be clear, the show never makes this connection itself. This is a real parallel I noticed, not something stated on screen. And this is where it gets complicated for me. Since the ghost story gathering started, the room itself has had its doors shut, its windows shut, and a fire slowly burning the whole time. Carbon monoxide's been building in that sealed room since the very first story, and nobody in it can tell. So the same stillness that saves the monk in Shisui's story is quietly working against everyone listening to it in real life. So Maomao catches that danger in time, but catching it and actually explaining Shisui's story, are those the same accomplishment? By the end of this episode, Maomao's got the real danger. The room is saved, everyone is breathing again. And that's actually the stranger version of this if you sit with it. A story she couldn't explain would at least tell you something. This feels different because nothing about the monk story ever gets touched at all. It just stays exactly as strange as it started. There's an actual term for what she's doing to every other story in this episode. It's called disenchantment, a real idea from sociology, and it just means stripping the mystery out of something through calculation instead of magic or fear. That's basically her whole function throughout Apothecary Diaries, except once. And near the end of episode, she basically admits as much herself that the world's full of things even she'll never be able to explain. Honestly, the show never tells you why, whether she leaves Shisui's story alone on purpose or it just never gives her the opening to, which makes me think that gap might be the actual point. Solving the danger and solving the mystery can look like the same ending and still not be. Which leaves me with the real question. Not whether Maomao could have explained the monk story, but whether the one story she leaves alone says more about her than every story she has already solved. Thanks for watching, see you in the next one.